what I do in business is in alignment with my spiritual calling. When I figured that out, this wasn't until 2016, but when I figured that out, when I had that realization that what I'm doing spiritually is what I'm doing in business, my business took off like a rocket.
Welcome, Bryan. It's good to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, man.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about you. Talk to me.
Yeah. So this whole journey started for me back in 2006. And I was at Liberty University working on my master's degree, really just because I was not sure what I was going to do with my career. So I was just extending my student debt. And I was like, man, I don't want to get a job. I don't want to be stuck in that box. I had a marketing degree at the time and almost a minor in pastoral studies. And I was learning at that time, this is 2006, so it's a while ago, but I was learning about affiliate marketing, and I joined a 30-day challenge to make your first dollar online. And that's what really pulled me into this whole world of marketing online. And 7 days in from buying my first domain name, I made my first sale, and it was $750 as an affiliate. And
nice.
That first sale, is like, it's exciting, but it's also, you're like, is this real? Right? Like, are they really going to pay me for this?
Totally. Right. You didn't do anything. You're like,
yeah,
it was almost too easy.
Yeah, it was too easy. I was like, man, if I can do this every day, once a day, I can make $250,000 a year. I just started doing some math, right?
Right.
And I worked maybe an hour on this. Like, this is too easy, And so what that did was it gave me belief, but it made me drive and go deeper in. And so I just started studying everything I could get my hands on. I bought course after course. And then I really, what I realized really early on is that I have a second degree black belt in Taekwondo. And I realized, I didn't get my second degree black belt in Taekwondo by watching YouTube videos, right? Like I had a sensei. And so I was like, you know what? I need to find someone who has the results I want, the lifestyle I want too. And I need to just hire them to coach me.
Right.
And I ended up finding this guy out of Australia, awesome dude. And he had what I wanted. Like he had a big family, and he had an affiliate income, and then he also had a service income, right? So he had both, and he was making multiple six figures a month, 200, 300, 500,000 a month, which fluctuated. And I was like, man, can you just teach me? And the guy didn't even have a coaching program at the time. He's like, dude, I don't do that. He's like, I just promote stuff, and then I do services for businesses. And I was like, well, what would it cost for me to get a couple hours of your time? Like, I know you can guide me. You do this every day, And so I hired him, ended up talking him into it after I just kept hammering him. And it was a stretch for me. I mean, I was in my master's degree, living on student loans, and I was working part-time as a personal trainer on the side. And it was $5,000. So I was like, okay, this is going to be a stretch for me, but I know it'll get me where I want to be. And literally, I launched a campaign that did 10,000 in commissions, 20,000 in sales, 10,000 in commissions in 3 days.
Wow!
And I was like, man, like I'm done with this education BS. Like this, I just made more in 3 days than my teachers make all month.
It's so funny. I know.
And then I stopped that altogether. I figured, this doesn't make any sense to just be learning and taking tests and writing papers. And I literally got to a point where I started outsourcing it to India. I was like, I'm just going to outsource my degree. Like,
come on, are you serious?
I thought that was going to be a good idea. I was like, maybe I could just outsource the whole thing.
Right. Because you thought you needed a degree back then. And it was just, it wasn't even the learning part of it. It was just the paper to be able to show to somebody to hire you. Right.
Exactly.
Silly.
Exactly. How silly is that?
Yeah. I think it's genius though, that like the entrepreneur and you was like, well, let me go to Fiverr and find somebody that can actually do this for me. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. I had people writing papers for me in India for $250. I'm like, oh, this is easy.
Right. And then you're like, this doesn't make any sense.
That's what an entrepreneur would do, is it right? You find the right people to do the job for you.
That's hilarious. All right. So that's 2006. So what is that? That's 15 years ago.
Yep.
Wow. All right. So then what happened?
Yeah. So after that, it was like, as an affiliate, because that's what I was an affiliate selling other people's stuff, because I didn't have anything to fulfill, right? So I became an affiliate of a bunch of other stuff. So I was promoting free trial stuff, weight loss offers, colon cleanse offers. I was also promoting high ticket software, so like $2,000 software, making like a 50% commission on it or monthly recurring continuity on it. So what I did is I just went really deep on promoting other people's stuff to the point where I got my income to between 3,000 to 5,000 a day every day on autopilot. And I was golfing 3 days a week. and that was awesome. I ended up actually partnering with the guy in Aspen, Colorado, who built a huge portfolio, portfolio of real estate properties and hotels and all that type of stuff. And he was ready to retire, but he's like, he's like, I still want to be like, I want to try this. He wanted to try the affiliate marketing. And I met him at an event and he's like, hey man, why don't you just do what you do? And I just fund everything you do. I was like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. That's no risk on my part. I'm already funding it myself. So now I'm just bring you in as a partner. You fund it and we'll just make all the profits together. And so I did more of that for the next 2 years. I just really focused on affiliate marketing, but also I started to do some service business too, which wasn't solicited on my behalf. I actually found a product that was a water ionizer, it's kind of like a water purifier, right? But better. I hit him up and I was like, hey, can I sell your stuff? And you pay me a commission. And the machines were like, I don't know, $4,000. They're like, well, you can buy them for $2,000, buy 10 at a time, 20 at a time, and then resell them. I was like, that's hogwash. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna send you customers and you're gonna pay me commissions. Like, right. What do you think this is? And mind you, this is like 2008, right? So 2007, 2008-ish. And he's like, he just couldn't wrap his head around it because his whole model was you buy a machine from me for $2,000, you sell it for $4,000. Totally. And he was like just scratching his head and he goes, well, we don't have that set up. It sounds amazing. He's like, but can you help me dominate my competition? Can you help me completely crush for all my keywords, paid traffic, SEO? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. Mind you, like I had never had a client up until this point in time. So I had to go back to my mentor again. He helped me draft up a contract and proposal and actually landed my first client. And so I started doing affiliate marketing, but also started serving people on the side. That was more like agency. On the side as an agency, correct.
Nice. So you called somebody direct. He wanted you to buy that. Where were you getting your deals before you were calling up direct, just the networks? Yeah.
So before I went to networks like Never Blue and Convert to Media, right? Dude, I was all over the board. I was on tons. I mean, I probably had 10 or 15 different networks that I was a part of. And then I'd also do stuff through ClickBank at the time. So that was more internet marketing stuff though, right? Totally. So that was more like internet marketing launches. So I was doing internet marketing launches and then I was also doing the free trial stuff. And obviously the free trial stuff was a lot easier to sell. But yeah, so all the free trial stuff was Never Blue, Convert to Media. I don't remember half of them anymore. Yeah.
Totally. Right. So just anybody listening, like affiliate networks, they go out, they get the deals and then they bring them. So it makes it easier for people like us to go and just do what we do instead of having to, build a team of sales and things of that nature, just so they get it, which is really cool because the idea, like, generate some cash flow. Once you start generating some cash flow with the affiliate side, now you're making money. Like you said, you spent an hour and you were making all this money for however long. It's not, I guess it's evergreen, but it doesn't last forever. Deals always end at some point, but now you have cash flow and now you can start to build your business instead of having to go and ask somebody to give you $5 million and give up 75% of your company. That's the beauty of what you figured out really early and what we're all living in. But so cool. So now you start this agency and now you're taking your genius and you're helping other people. Right. And this is 2008. So, get us to where 8 to you writing a book.
Right. So, So this book, back in 2003, I had a near-death experience, was in a coma for 8 hours, woke up with 3 doctors coming to my bedside singing "He's Alive." Right. So,
no way.
So I was in a white hospital, white bed, white room, white everything, white people with white lab coats, right? Coming in and they're like, he's alive. Like they're freaking out because they didn't think I was going to live. And so the doctor, so I was in a coma, for about 8 hours. The night before I was pledging to be in a fraternity and, it was basically like, it was Big Brother night. And so it was really dramatic, really intense emotionally, and we drank way too much. Let's just put it that way. So my complete system was completely overrun with alcohol. I mean, my blood alcohol level is 0.39. And goodness. Just so you know what that, 0.4, I was dead. So I was one shot from death. The doctor even called my parents the night before and was like, hey, your son's going to probably be dead or brain dead for life. That's what they called and said on the phone.
Oh my
And
God.
my parents were like, cancel. I don't believe that. Like, and they started praying immediately for my protection. And then they drove across the street. Now it was like a 6-hour drive for them. So you can imagine how, how with the state of mind that they were in, right?
Oh my God.
As a parent, right? I mean, think about it, right?
Oh.
And so they got over there, and then I will end up waking up. Well, the doctor was like, son, you're a living miracle. Like in my 30 years of being a doctor, I've never seen anyone with your severe condition live, let alone be even able to comprehend what I'm saying, right?
Wow.
And that's when he told me my blood alcohol was 0.39. He's like, listen, there's no explanation for this. God has a purpose for your life. You need to figure out what that is. But I don't have any explanation. There's no medical explanation to what happened here. So what happened was I consumed about a fifth of vodka, just to give everyone a little frame, about a fifth of vodka in about 20 or 30 minutes, max 30 minutes. So I'd imagine crushing a bottle of vodka in 30 minutes, right?
Wow.
I don't know how I did that or why I did that. I don't know. It ended up becoming like a major situation at the university, obviously. The fraternity got shut down for a year. People got kicked out of school. I mean, it was a whole ordeal. And I was just grateful to be alive. And then, so what happened was I drove back to campus with my dad, and there was this little tiny hole in the wall church on the side, like probably could fit 20 people in it. And it had those old school churches, like, tiny little churches in the South. And this is, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the sign said, God has a plan and purpose for your life. And my dad's like, hey, I think this is for you. This is the second time this message has come across today. I think you need to start paying attention. And I took that to heart, and I really started to seek, why was my life spared? Why was I saved? Why was I brought back to life? And I went on a journey to really figure out what that was. And it took me 2 years. I was at Liberty. I transferred to 2 schools. Actually, I transferred to Clearwater Christian College down in Florida, here in Clearwater. And then I transferred up to Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. And it was during Spiritual Emphasis Week, which is basically like a week of like conferences from pastors and missionaries and nonprofit organizations. They all basically come in and like pour into us. They just imagine it's like, Funnel Hacking Live on steroids, like it's just one whole week dedicated to spiritual things. And it was that week that my eyes were opened to what I was called, like what my purpose was, what I was called to do. And I read all about that in the book. But from that week, then God put it on my heart that I was meant to, he wanted me to put a certain specific framework that I had to go through inside of the book, and that I was supposed to publish that book in the future. And it was the most important book that I had to publish this first before I published anything else. That was what was made known to me, or made revealed to me. Yeah. And, it took me over 15 years to finally publish this thing. But,
wow.
Looking back, it's like, if I would have published it a decade ago or 5 years after I had received that revelation, it wouldn't have been ready. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
a lot of times we think, I just want to like launch this thing and crush this out, and then realize that if I would have done that when I was given the prompting, I call them promptings. So if I wrote the book when I was given the prompting, the book would be like a chapter or 2 chapters, yeah. Right? Yeah. It was like I had to go on a journey, and it was over 15 years that made up this book.
All these experiences that you've gone through, the pain, just figuring out how to get over it. Totally. Yeah. That's I did not know that, man. That's wild. So you had a second chance at life ultimately, right?
That's right.
So now you start this thing on the internet world, and now your book's been 15 years in the making of just
that's right.
Killing it, pain, awesome. Wow. So you finally wrote it, right? Yep. You finally, when did it get published?
So we got it published a couple months ago. So it just went live in November. Actually, November is when it went live for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. So what's the main theme of the book? What tell me what it's about. Like why would someone want to buy it?
I would say the main theme is around when I received the prompting for my purpose, spiritual purpose, it was to help to share my story and help other people share theirs. And that's really like all I got, right? Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, the revelation that I received was back in 2005. So I wasn't even in business yet, right? So I really had no clue how to help other people tell their story. right? And then as you evolve, as I evolve over the years, I mean, that's my business now, right? It's like I help experts tell their story, get their message out, launch their expertise, right? The core of the message in this book is really helping people to, what I would say, there's a framework that I had to go through as it related to my relationship with God, my relationship with my dad, and my relationship with an intimate partner. And I was guided on how to handle those situations. And what happened from handling those situations, I believe God's way, was it unlocked a new level for me. Like you can always handle things in two different ways, right? You can like go this route or you can go this route, and one route can be damaging and the other route can be like the higher road, right? And so in all those situations, like my relationship with my dad, and then my relationship with an intimate partner, I had to go through it. It was very interesting, but it was the exact same framework, the same process. But by choosing God's path, I say it really unlocked a lot of doors for me. Like it opened up so much more opportunities for me because I handled the situation of those relationships in a specific way, right? Now, beyond that, I would say, because I feel that, like for me, like I was harboring a lot of anger, bitterness, and frustration with my dad, and like the way he was choosing to show up in my life, and that was holding me back. Like that was holding my connectedness with God back because I was angry at my dad, right? So it was almost like I imagine like being like chained into a room and being like, and it being locked from the outside, and although not being aware that it was being locked, it was even locked in the first place. That's ultimately how I felt looking back at going through that specific process, which I share in the book. It's almost like being released from that room of bondage. And it just releases, like my dad and I had after we handled our relationship that way, our whole relationship opened up, like it began to flourish. And my dad and I, after that, had an amazing, relationship that was healthy, right? Same thing with my intimate partner. I mean, I found out my intimate partner was like cheating on me, and God had taken me through a process of showing me, hey, listen, you have to go through the same process you went through with your dad. Yeah. And because I chose that path, instead of like kicking her out to the curb and like just completely leaving her behind, God showed me how to handle that relationship differently and in a way that was honoring. And so, and then a lot more other doors opened, I truly believe, because I handled it a different way. I would say God's way, right? But the big thing is like helping people discover their purpose. Like, what is your purpose, and what is your beyond your physical purpose here? But what's your spiritual purpose? What's your soul's purpose, right? Like we all have a spirit, we all have a soul. So what is the spiritual assignment that you have here? A lot of people never figure that out, right? And I think that if you don't know that for me, like, what I do in business is also serves a spiritual purpose. There's a spiritual purpose that's in business that's the same that's in the spiritual world. So it's like what I've come to the conclusion is that what I do in business is in alignment with my spiritual calling. And I'll tell you, man, when I figured that out, this wasn't until 2016, but when I figured that out, when I had that realization that what I'm doing spiritually is what I'm doing in business, my business took off like a rocket. Like before, I always felt like, well, spiritual things are for Sunday, or they're over here, like maybe later in life. Once I crush it in business, I'll go and invest and do things spiritually. When I realized that they're both the same, they're both one and the same. Yeah. My business took off like literally like a rocket. I mean, it went from a trajectory. Let's say the trajectory was like this. Well, it went massive. It just went straight up. After I had that resolve, because think about it. Before I had the resolve, I was being pulled in different directions. Like, well, what I'm doing over here as it relates to helping people with their businesses on the internet? How is that related to spiritual things, right? So I had this constant pull back and forth of like, oh well, I'm supposed to be, God saved me from death, and I have a spiritual calling, but I'm not. But I felt like I wasn't doing it up until 2016. Looking back, like looking after 2016 and forward, I mean, I can't tell you, the growth has been dramatic. And so I think it's important to look back and see like lessons in your career. And for me, that's like one of the big telltales is like looking at those major moments that everything changes. And for me, that was definitely one of them.
Really cool. That's powerful stuff, man. Like I didn't even know that, but
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy. So it's funny, like some things that I when I first got into this industry, I don't know if I'm going to embarrass you or not, but I started playing around and listening to Russell on his podcast, and started like doing some research on the self education space, and I came across this video with like Oompa Doompa, like this guy all dressed up like Willy Wonka, and I'll never forget it. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do. I want to do something that's like creative, fun, have fun with work. And I don't know if anybody, they probably don't even know about it. You can go Google it, I would imagine, right? Bryan did a really cool marketing video. I think you did it with your wife, right? And you dressed up as Willy Wonka, and you positioned your business in a certain way and had fun with it. How did that campaign do? Curious.
It did well, man. Yeah, it did. We generated several $1 million from that campaign, at least 5 million, at least. Sold over 6,000 units of the USB drive. It's called Free Golden Ticket for everyone who's listening. But yeah, I really give a lot of credit to my wife. So my wife, I was sitting down one day in my office at my house when I was living in La Jolla, and I was like, hey, like, I want to give away some of our best performing campaigns and show people under the hood about what it takes to build 7 and 8 figure campaigns, right? Yeah. And I was like, but I want to have something I can ship where they have to wait to get it, and I want to have like winners. And my wife just was like, free golden ticket. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Free golden ticket? She's like, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'm like, I still have no clue what you're talking. Like, what do you? And now, so she had written a thesis on this, like during her master's degree. So she had a lot of intimate knowledge of this movie, right? I had no clue. Like, I watched Willy Wonka back in the day, but
totally.
Not in my 30s, right? So I was probably a teenager when that movie came out, or before that, right?
You must have been way younger than that.
It was probably way younger than that. Yeah, I probably was a teenager when I actually got around to watching it. But so she broke it down. She's like, we'll give it what? He's like, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, they had 5 golden ticket holders, and they came into the chocolate factory. She's like, we can have a profit factory. We can have 5 people that come in, and they can win a day with you, which is normally 15 grand. They can win that. So there's like a high ticket thing that people can win for free. And then from there, we could build out a campaign for them for free. Like the winning ticket holder will win, just like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? Yeah. But it really stemmed from that initial conversation. Another question I think is really important that I asked was, I said, what can we create that's going to stand out like a sore thumb and get everybody's attention, right? And I mean, that's really ultimately what you have to think about when it comes to marketing campaigns, because we're constantly scrolling by. We're in a scrolling world, right? Like, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, we're scrolling, and things are moving a mile a minute. So if you don't stand out and capture attention, totally, right, then you're just going to get passed by, right? So we went all out. I mean, we did. I got full costume. My wife did my makeup. She dressed like an Oompa Loompa. We multiplied her through video effects. She had like literally like spandex that she had to measure like her arms and her leg. Like, she had to measure everything out. It was pretty awesome. But
it made an impression on me. I'll tell you, it made an impression on me. Yeah.
The outcome was great. But what I think, looking back on that campaign, we launched it in like 2016, was another thing I want people to see it was I wanted someone to see that campaign and say, I want that creativity on my business. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think it did exactly that. I mean, I have consistently hear people that come across my that I sit down with for a full day to map out their stuff. Most of them have bought my golden ticket. And like the guy I had in last week, literally on Friday, he bought 2 because he's like, I tried a second time a year later to see if I could win again. That's not how it works. You can't just buy as many tickets as you want.
That's great. That's evergreen
in the system. Yeah.
So people are still buying it today, right now.
Yep.
That is beautiful.
People are still buying it.
See, that's something. Explain that to people. Explain how you worked on something in 2016, and right now we're in December of 2021, and you're still getting paid.
People are still buying it. Yep.
That is
and we created it like a funnel, so it's like a free plus shipping offer, right? Where we put some of our 7 and 8 figure campaigns on a USB drive, where people can plug it into their computer and they can download our funnels. But beyond that, they could see behind the scenes. They can see like the funnels, the pages, the scripts that go with it. Like there's a lot more, plus video training to go with it. So it wasn't like just like, oh yeah, here, download these funnels. It was actually explaining the campaigns from a high level, right? And then how to use them for their business. With the free golden ticket, we have a bump offer where you can add an order to their cart before they check out. I think it's $37. And then there's an upsell for, I think it's $397, which is a 60-minute strategy session with my wife. So that's an upsell. Now, I will tell you, when we first launched the campaign, we had that priced at $197, and it was converting the first couple thousand buyers. I mean, we were converting 10%. 10% of everybody who's buying a free golden ticket was buying that at $197, to the point where it just became overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because those calls have to deliver true value, right? I mean, you've got like, that's the promise is delivering value. So people are paying $197. So that's when I decided, okay, we need to slow the roll here. We need to slow this down, because what happened was we were running into a problem of scale, right? Because I was like, okay, I was like, this is great. We can move 100 USBs a day. But the problem was we'd have 10 calls to do every day.
Right.
I was like, listen, my wife can't do 10 calls a day. I'm not trying to stress out my wife, which she wasn't even my wife at the time. She was just my girlfriend.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. You don't want to overwhelm her. But
Right.
I mean, the genius of it, right? You create this awesome marketing campaign to attract a certain type of person. They come in, they want your stuff because of the success you've had, and now you're just gifting it to them in this USB. You bump them on some offer to get some revenue there, and then on the back end, you start to ascend them up of a phone call, and then the phone call, I would imagine, goes into
our agency
coaching.
What we got was we went from, so the average cart value statistically is $50 to $55. So it never dropped below 50. It was always between that $50 to $55 range.
Yeah.
So where we can spend, we're spending $15 to $25 a buyer. Obviously that makes sense, right? I mean, I would even propose, because of our business model, that I could spend up to $55
Totally.
to sell a USB drive for $9.95. And so a lot of people really don't understand that concept of a break-even funnel, because I talk to so many people and they just don't understand this concept, right? But at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I break even and where do I profit? And then how do I scale, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, okay, I'll spend 15, 20, $25. That was the range. It's like good, better, and best. Like when we run ad campaigns, like, okay, good, better, best. It's like good would be, let's call it $20 a lead or $25 a lead. Better would be 20. So 25 would be good, 25 would be good, 20 would be better, and then 15 would be best. Right. And that's when, I'm incentivizing the team with all types of, profit share and stuff, when we're hitting those lower numbers, right?
Right.
But the concept here is give away some of your best stuff. A buyer is worth 40 times more than a lead. So I could have just given all this away for like, give me your name and email, download these funnels, right? And in fact, a lot of people ask, like, why can't I just download this now? Like, well, that's not how this campaign is designed. The campaign is designed for you to wait, for you to like potentially be a winning ticket holder, right? Yeah. And I think what's cool is that most of the people that came in that actually won also went into our agency at some capacity. Like they got so much value from that free day, which they would have paid 15 grand for. They got so much value that they move forward in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And the best thing about you, I think what you bring to the table that's really attractive for someone who's going to work with you is you understand the expert space. You understand how to create funnels. You understand how to create the flow, the ascension, but you also understand the front end media buying, which is something that people don't really get. Like even now you're talking about, 25, 2015, and some people are like, what the hell is he talking about? Ultimately, what you're saying is that's the money it costs to acquire a customer for you in your funnel, right? So, just to simplify it, if you bought 1,000 clicks at $1, he spent $1,000. And from those 1,000 clicks that landed on his page, what's the conversion rate, what happened when they signed up and went through the funnel. And what you're doing is ultimately just averaging it out to say, okay, it cost me $25 on average. You might have gotten 3 buyers. One of them may have paid $397, right? In that scenario. So it's just, I think people, when you start talking about the numbers, people go like, what are you talking about? And it's like, I love the numbers. That's my favorite part of this business because it's all math. Right. It's like, there's no favoritisms here. Like when I do deals with people, they're like, oh, pay me a little, I'll pay you what the value of your traffic is worth. Right. It's as simple as that, like, I like you. I'd love to do business with you, but if it doesn't back out, then I can't, and that's like something that I think that you're really, really good at, that I think just resonates to me on watching what you do when you're able to not only help people with designing and building the process of like your value ladder, but then you're able to help execute on now bringing in customers, which is what people are begging for all the time. Right. Yeah. With this book, like I know you've helped some people in the inner circle get to their $1 million. Are there examples like that in the book that you talk about on ways that
there are some? There are some. Yeah, there are some. It's more focused on helping you take your story, your expertise, and like get it out to the world. I didn't spend a ton of time going into case studies of like, that's my next book. My next book is about all of that. But this book is really about how do you turn your story or your message into a business that blesses other people. You got to first figure out what that unique story that you have is, and then that unique expertise is as well, right? So that's why self-education is exploding, right, to $1 billion a day by 2025, right? It's because people are realizing that they need to find people who have specialized knowledge and then go and hire them to get the same results that they've been able to produce.
Right. And the beauty is with really, what your business is, right, is there are people out in the world that don't realize that they have this knowledge. You're helping them to realize they have this special superpower of some sort. Yeah. And then you just focus on that, and all the things you do can help them build a business, right? Correct. That's what your agency does today. Yeah. So like to get under the hood just a little bit, right? Yeah. It's the same way you kind of describe how you created Willy Wonka. Can like from my perspective, tell me how you use this book for you to build your business so people can understand how you're taking some of this knowledge that you have. And this is to attract a certain type of person to come in, right? This is the top of your funnel, right? Like the free plus shipping, it's one of kind of like the Willa, right? And then they come in, and then there's going to be, I would imagine, some back end with the end goal to get them into your agency once you qualify who the right people are that you want to work with. Right? I imagine there's thousands of people that want to work with you. So you got to like figure out who you want to work with. Right. Right. But let's get under the hood a little bit. Tell me like and the genius of you on how you go about that.
Yeah. So first of all, the message I say is probably one of the most important messages that I've ever shared. I do feel that the message contained within the pages of this book allows to like unlock, like when Russell asked me to share with the inner circle, what's the secret to my success? Because I've helped more people than almost anyone in the entire community create $1 million to $10 million funnels. Right. Yeah. I said exactly what's in the pages of the book is what I shared with Russell's, inner circle. So the way that I thought about this book is, first of all, I have a lot of accomplishments. So I didn't need the like, Amazon bestselling author. Like to me, that's not as valuable. Then, I've had Tony Robbins say that I'm the top 1% of all marketers and funnel experts in the world. Like I have that, plus I have a lot of other results to back it up. So to me, if you're starting, you don't have a lot of credibility, you don't have a lot of results for other people, then you might want to go get that Amazon bestselling author or New York Times bestselling author, whatever it might be, right? For me, I didn't think about this book that way. I thought about it from the perspective of if I can have a funnel that can have an average cart value of say $50 to $55, then I can buy traffic and spend $20 to $40 per buyer to buy my book. And then I knew once they bought the book and the other stuff that comes with it, like my audiobook, and then I have an upsell for a call with my wife, I knew that they would get to know me on a much deeper level. Like in a way that I've never shared before, right? So knowing that would happen, then it would be an obvious choice that people would say, okay, if I want help launching my expertise online then Bryan and his team are the guys that could help me. Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah, of course. 100%. No, that totally makes sense to me. I mean, listen, all you need to do is let people just get to know you. If they get to know you and they recognize your brilliance, I mean, you're going to have to turn people away. You're only one person. You can't work with too many people, right? So it's like the idea of putting all of your genius into this book, getting somebody to buy it, consume it, read about it is a smart thing to do. And then, you know, if you're able to then get them onto a call and you qualify them through Stephanie, and then Stephanie is like, all right, Bryan, this is somebody that makes sense. We think that you could take this person to the next level. You know, I would imagine like that type of person. I mean, it's not like a cheap thing to buy from you, but by buying your package, you're taking, you know, you charge 100,000, 200,000, 500, whatever you charge. I don't know what you charge. Yeah. You're delivering a 5X, a 10X, a 20X for those people. So it sounds like, oh, well, Bryan, what do you charge? Oh, I charge $500,000. And, you know, people are like, what are you, crazy? Like, who the hell pays that? Right. But then somebody reads your book, they start to see some of the things that you've done. They start to understand. And then you're like, oh, well, you know, someone else who just paid that 500 grand just made $20 million in the last 24 months. And you're like, oh, wait, 500 grand for 20 million. Would I trade that?
Exactly. Yeah. And for us, like, it goes from the book and then the audio book. That's the front end. We have 2 bump offers actually. And then they get some award-winning funnels and scripts, right? So they got that. That's a bonus. That's another pre-checkout bump. And then from there it goes to the call. And then from there it goes to, you know, thank you for your order. And then we have a thank you page webinar, which then explains the concept of doing it yourself versus hiring the best of the best to help you. Like, and I break that whole concept down because I think a lot of people fail and struggle because they try to do it all themselves. Yeah. And I mean, we see tons of people coming into the market, but we see a very small, we just look at ClickFunnels. There's less than 1% of the entire community has ever generated over $1 million in gross revenue, which is a bad number. You know, you got to think about why is that happening? You know, like Russell said, it's not about what or how, it's about who's in your corner helping you. Like he's like, I didn't build ClickFunnels by myself. I got over 200 employees, right? And so it's that mindset that a lot of people don't have. So so then from us, then it goes into like a $15,000, you know, strategy session day where we're mapping everything out for them. And then from there, we'll build something, whether it's a shed or a dream house. It's totally different. You know, everyone's different, right? Someone might be $25,000 build. Someone might be a $1.5 million build like we closed the other day. I mean, you know, they're all over the board, you know. Yeah.
Weren't you like in the top 10 for one of your affiliate programs or anything like that?
Yeah.
Something like that?
With Tony and Dean. Yeah. Top 10 twice. Yeah.
Dean and Tony, they have this program that they run every year, and then they have contests with all these different affiliates that come, and they are looking for people to drive traffic to their webinar. At least that was the first year. And the second year was all around a challenge. And all of us affiliates were all competing to get people there. And the top 10 people who drove the most customers for them, they then invited at an all paid expense trip to Fiji so that you could have a mastermind with Tony and Dean. And I believe you made that 2 years in a row. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So the way I looked at it was really the carrot was Tony, right? Getting Tony's brain on your business, hanging out at his resort in Fiji, right? So I said, you know, how much would that be worth? He's like, I'd probably pay 100 grand for that. So, you know, I was like, okay, I'll throw 100 grand at ads and see how this goes, right? And ended up placing number 5 first year, and then the second year placed number 4.
Amazing.
And the second year was a lot more competitive because everybody knew my strategy going in. I shared my strategy, which I probably shouldn't have, with a bunch of the affiliates in the second year. Right. And then they all came with my strategy knowing it. And then they also came with bigger budgets. So year 2 was actually a lot more stressful than the first one.
Right. And just so people understand this, like you would have paid 100 grand to be in a mastermind with Tony. But on the $100,000 that you spent, there was a return on that investment. It wasn't you just put 100 grand in there, right? You actually ended up getting paid to go and hang out with Tony because of all the things that you built in that program. So that people understand that, like that's the genius of what you did.
Well, so the first year, we profited 100 grand on commissions from Tony as an affiliate. So really, Tony paid us 100 grand to go to Fiji. And then beyond that, we have, we have a mastermind, we have an agency. So we made several $1 million by those two vehicles as well, on top of the affiliate commissions. Right. And really it wasn't about the affiliate commissions for me. It was about attracting a higher level audience that resonates with Tony. Right. So it was a perfect campaign to support. Like, I don't do a lot of those campaigns nowadays. But it was really a great campaign to support, because Tony just attracts just such a high quality person. Right.
And just so we understand the genius of what Bryan did, right? He attracts entrepreneurs interested in Tony and Dean's program. He captures information. He builds his database on these people. He then sends them over to a partner that is not competing with him, right? It complements his business. They get value. So the customer's happy. He's getting paid. Bryan's happy. Now he has a potential customer for his real business on the back end. That's not even his business. That whole thing of you going to Tony, you making $100,000, that's not, like you said, you don't even care about that, because what happens is on the back end of that is where now you work, you nurture these people. And then some of these people end up joining either your mastermind or joining your agency. And that's your core business. And it all starts from an affiliate program, right? If you think about it. And that's the same thing. It's like that front end is the same as you doing your Willy Wonka or your book, just so everybody understands all that. But
that's exactly, you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly. So the way I thought about going into it is, like, if I can just break even, I already knew I would make it up in the back end, because we have a back end, right? And one of the things that I always recommend, I would like to say this because I've talked about a lot of front end campaigns, but I mean, for like a good decade, I mastered and really dialed in the back end to get to a place to be able to start rolling out a ton of these front end offers. Right. And I think a lot of people try to do it the other way. They try to throw a bunch of front end low ticket offers out and then not really have a back end in place. Right. That's not the way I did it. I really obsessed about on the high ticket back end, dial that in, produce results repeatedly. And then once that was fleshed out and reproduced, I could reproduce those results. Then I was like, okay, now it's time to, now I want to attract more people. So now I'm going to throw out a book. I'm going to throw out a webinar. I'm going to throw out a challenge. I'm going to support Tony and Dean. Right. I mean, from the first event, we threw a 3-day event, which we paid $150,000 for. So think about it this way. Tony paid us $100,000 in commissions as an affiliate. So we're now $150,000 event. So we're $50,000 in the hole. But what happened was, I knew we would make it up in the back end, right? Because I've been doing this long enough. So we had 239 people show up. And then from that, we had 69 people apply for our 25K mastermind. And then a handful of people apply for a $100K profit partnership.
Right. So a few $1 million.
So it's like, do the math, right? It's, over $2 million just from one small, 3-day event. But all those people would have never been in the room if they didn't buy Tony and Dean's program through us.
That's correct. Right. Yeah. So it all starts from you just being an affiliate. Unbelievable.
That's it.
Genius, man. Well, yeah, I'm glad you got that across. So I'm glad we got that on tape. Bryan, you're awesome. Anybody that gets to work with you, I believe, is lucky. Cool. Thanks for your time. Yeah. If anybody wants to pay him for his time on the show, you can give him your bank account number right now if you want. I'm just kidding. Listen, how do people work with you? How would they get in touch with you?
So perfectfunnelsystem.com is probably the best place for people to go. It's the easiest to pronounce.
Perfectfunnelsystem.com. All right. We'll put that down on the screen here. And how can they buy the book?
If you go to perfectfunnelsystem.com, you'll see a link there to buy it. So everything is there from Perfect Funnel System, or directly you could go to entrepreneurevangelist.com. So the book's called Entrepreneur Evangelist, right? And I am certainly an evangelist of entrepreneurship. Love entrepreneurship.
How'd you come up with that name?
You could also go to entrepreneurevangelist.com. I was one of my partners who I started a mastermind with back in 2015. He's like, man, you're an entrepreneur evangelist. And I was like, that's a good name. I should buy that domain name. So I bought the domain name and I ended up calling the book that.
I love it. That's awesome. And you're giving it away for free, right?
Free. It's free. All we ask, you cover the shipping and handling costs to get it to you anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world for that matter.
That's awesome. Well, man, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to be here and tell us a little bit about you and the genius you have. I know you have another baby on the way. So I want to wish you luck with that. And
thanks, Eric.
Keep us posted on boy or girl. when you
Yep.
find out, and we got to have a follow-up and you tell us all about it if you have a
For sure.
or
For
a
sure.
reveal. But Bryan, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much. I've learned a great ton from you, and I think it's a treat that you came on today. So I appreciate you.
Awesome. You're welcome, man. It's always my pleasure to be with you.
All right, buddy. Be good. Take
Cool.
care.